Hi there. So there's a lot of exotic armor pieces in the game of Destiny 2. Like, a lot. 120 to be exact. Today I'm making a build for all 40 hunter exotics. Forgive me if I don't go into much detail for each. Now, some exotic armor pieces are obviously much better than others, so to give you an idea of which builds you should be using from this massive list, I'm going to rate each build on a scale of 1 to 5. I'll recap all the best ones at the end of the video. Know that most of these are just my impressions of the build. I haven't actually gone out and extensively tested all 40 of these builds for obvious reasons. Knucklehead Radar. This is going to be hard. Void, Trapper's Ambush, Vanishing Step, Echo of Persistence, Dilation, Cessation and Obscurity. Gain an enhanced radar while crouching that you keep while aiming down sights. Totally won't get you instantly kicked from LFG groups. Celestial Nighthawk, Solo with Acrobat's Dodge, Proximity Knife and a grenade of your choice. Knock 'em down, Gunpowder Gamble. Mercy, Singeing, Benevolence, Torches. Marksman Golden Gun has a single super powerful shot. Also lots of ways to buff up your teammates, which I'm sure they'll appreciate. There are much better options these days though. Foe Tracer, not a lot of viability here, so why not just lean into the whole mark targets thing. Void, Stylish Executioner, Vanishing Step, Remnants, Undermining, Instability, Exchange. Run this with Lorenz Driver if you like. Foe Tracer will mark targets who take more damage if they're low on health. I've built into grenades so the build isn't totally useless, you're welcome. Graviton Forfeit, another Void. Trapper's Ambush, Vanishing Step. Persistence, Starvation, Obscurity, Instability. Longer invis timers and a range of fragments make this one of the most versatile builds in the game. I have a slightly very outdated video on a similar build if you're interested. Wormhusk Crown, you can pair this with any build on any subclass really, but I'm going with Strand, why not? Use Marksman's Dodge with the Widow's Silk and new Threaded Spectre aspects. Evolution, Rebirth, Mind, Warding. Think Broodweaver Warlock Threadling build, but it's on Hunter. Dodge for a health bump and to spawn a decoy which can explode into Threadlings. Threadlings also spawn on Strand weapon kills, and as such you should be using a Strand weapon. Kind of a fun build, not gonna lie. Assassin's Cowl, Arc with Flow State and Lethal Current. For the fragments, Feedback, Shock, Resistance, Magnitude. Get a melee kill to stack a combination blow, refresh your dodge, go invisible, and regenerate health. Dodge near enemies to refresh your melee and prep a jolting explosion. Use a 1-2 punch shotgun to one-hit tougher enemies and a tractor cannon to apply a 30% debuff. One of the best builds in the entire game for solo play. Mask of Bacchus, Stasis, Grim Harvest, Touch of Winter, Refraction, Chains, Durance, Fractions, Impetus. Very effective when paired with the new Cold Comfort rocket. Prep Envious Assassin and Restoration Ritual before DPS. Throw Super, dodge shift for 25% more damage, proc bait and switch, shoot 4 rockets and reload using your shurikens. This will easily have you top of your raid group's DPS numbers, but requires a lot of prep and coordination, which I don't have. Blight Ranger, Arc, Lethal Current, Flow State. Use Combination Blow, loop with hands on for fast supers. Fragments, Beacons, Resistance, Recharge and Brilliance. Reflecting projectiles with your super deals more damage. Went with a blind build on this one since Blight Ranger is one of the most useless exotics in the game and I needed something to set this build apart. Arachnes Facade. I am the world's best Englisher. Strand, Ensnaring Slam, Widow's Silk. Ascent, Generation, Warding, Continuity. Grappling will reload weapons and give Woven Mail. You can grapple to a tangle or grapple point to reproc Woven Mail at any time. This is pretty much my go-to grapple build for anything other than jumping puzzles. Younger Hamkara's Spine. Solar, Knock 'em down on your mark. Mercy, Resolve, Ashes, Torches, Searing. Knife Trick hits refund your Trip Mine Grenade. Hit all 3 and you have a full grenade. Trip Mine Grenades do no self damage, have a higher blast radius and refund melee energy. You can essentially loop these 2 abilities infinitely, which is very fun. Restoration fire sprites on ability kills too. Mechaneer's Trick Sleeves. Definitely an option to go with Final Warning here, but there was a distinct lack of Stasis builds in this video, so I'm going with that instead. Aspects, Touch of Winter, Grim Harvest. Fissures, Hunger, Chains, Rhyme, Bonds. Pair this with the Cryesthesia 77k to gain all the nice sidearm buffs. Alternatively use Aga's Scepter and ignore the exotic completely because that'll probably work out better. Aeon Swift. We're immediately looking at a GM build here. Strand, Ensnaring Slam, Widow's Silk. Warding, Generation, Continuity, Isolation. Run Sect of Insight to generate heavy ammo for your fire team when you finish a boss or champion. Also includes a handy suspend loop that can keep enemies suspended for minutes at a time. Shinobu's Vow, Arc, Flow State, Lethal Current. Trust me, I want to use Tempest Strike at some point, but it's so useless on its own. Fragments, Shock, Resistance, Ions, Recharge. You get a second skip grenade, and damaging enemies with them gives you grenade energy back. Running Bolstering Detonation and Bomber mods can allow for very high uptime on these grenades. They also jolt, which does really good ad clear. Sealed Hamkara Grasps. Solar, knock 'em down, gunpowder gamble. Mercy, Empyrean, torches, searing. Spam knife trick infinitely as long as you're getting kills. Melee hits reload your equipped weapon, and melee final blows reload all your weapons. These aren't integral to the build though, and other exotics make this subclass way more potent. Can be nice when paired with Fourth Horseman or Legend of Acreus though. Shards of Galanor, solar again. Knock 'em down on your mark. Beams, combustion, ashes, torches, eruption. Like the previous build, go around spamming your melee but include hands-on mods on your helmet. When you get your super, projectiles will track to targets and ignite. Shards of Galanor gives you a chunk of your super back based on hits. Oathkeepers. Unfortunately the new damage buff doesn't work with Leviathan's Breath. Might be a bug, might not be. We're using Void nonetheless, but instead of using Levi's Breath, we're using Le Monarch. Stylish Executioner and Vanishing Step combined with Vigilance, Starvation, Persistence and Instability. Grenade kills give you volatile rounds which benefits Le Monarch very nicely. Oathkeepers allow you to hold Perfect Draw indefinitely and give you a 2.5x damage buff if you hold it long enough. Liar's Handshake, Arc, Flow State Lethal Current, Feedback, Shock, Resistance, Magnitude. It's the exact same build as Assassin's Cowl, just with Liar's Handshake. Is that cheating for the video? Probably, but it's probably the best Arc Hunter build in the game, so I'm going to use it. Liar's Handshake gives you a very powerful counter punch after using your Arc melee. During the combination blow loop, you can punch twice to kill most enemies in the game. Kepri's Sting, Stylish Executioner, Trapper's Ambush, Instability, Provision, Exchange, Undermining. Throw a grenade at a group of enemies to weaken and kill them, which procs Stylish Executioner. You can then stab an enemy with your melee to auto-deploy your smoke bomb. Alternatively, you could just throw your smoke bomb at the floor. Atris's Embrace, solar with a weighted knife, knock 'em down on your mark. Mercy, tempering, ashes, torches, searing. Empower your weighted knife before throwing to watch it bounce all over the walls and track to enemies. Empowered knives also stun unstoppable champions and deal increased damage. You can run this with Skyburner's Oath to scorch targets before hitting them with your knife to instantly ignite them. Renewal Grasps, Stasis, Touch of Winter, Grim Harvest, Durance, Fissures, Shards, Rime, Bonds. Standing in your Duskfield grenade gives you damage resistance. Defeating slowed or frozen targets will give stasis shards that can be picked up for an overshield. This is particularly useful in high-end nightfalls where you need damage resistance as much as possible. Defeating slowed or frozen targets also grants super energy which can allow you to get your super back incredibly quickly. Caliban's Hand is possibly my favourite solar exotic in the game. While not particularly effective in higher end content, it is an absolute blast to use. Knock 'em down, gunpowder gamble. Fragments, eruption, torches, searing, mercy. You get a kill with your proximity knife and the target ignites and wipes out everything around it. You'll also usually get your knife back, which is very nice. Triton Vice, solar again. Knock 'em down on your mark. Singeing, Empyrean, torches, tempering, mercy. In the hypothetical situation where I have it, I'd use the new dungeon glaive with incandescent. Unfortunately, it just keeps giving me this one rocket launcher. With Triton Vice equipped, glaives gain increased melee damage and reload speed when surrounded by enemies, and melee kills overflow around into the magazine. Projectiles also explode on a kill if your glaive damage type matches your subclass. Bit of a wishy-washy exotic really, but it's kind of fun. Raiden Flux, Arc, Flow State, Lethal Current, Resistance, Instinct, Magnitude, Shock. For all of the many Arc Staff exotics, you'll want to use hands-on and do the combination blow loop to gain super energy fast. When you do have your super, rapid hits will deal increased damage and extend the super. Probably the best you'll get out of Arc Staff. Lucky Raspberry, Arc, Flow State, Tempest Strike, why not? Resistance, Discharge, Ions, Shock. You regenerate energy for Arc Bolt grenades based on hits. I wasn't expecting much from this build, but Arc Bolt grenades with Jolt are surprisingly good for AdClear. They do abysmal damage though, so watch out for anything stronger than a Thrall. The Dragon's Shadow, Void, Trapper's Ambush, Vanishing Step, Vigilance, Starvation, Obscurity, Undermining. A bit of an all-rounder build this one. You can go with Gambler's Dodge instead of Markman's and still get the instant reload thanks to Dragon's Shadow. Also built into support of it through weakening grenades. Ophidia Spaith, solar, knock 'em down on your mark. Mercy, Singeing, Torches, Ashes, Searing. 2 knife trick charges combined with Ember of Ashes can instantly ignite any enemy in the game. Kills with this ignition can refund both charges, while a normal kill will refund the one just like usual. Interestingly, Gambler's Dodge recharges both, which can make for some very interesting ignition spam setups. The 6th Coyote, Strand, Ensnaring Slam, Widow's Silk, Mind, Continuity, Generation, Warding. 2 dodge charges means enemies spend twice as long suspended. Pair this with Shackle Grenade to keep enemies in place for pretty much an indefinite amount of time. I've got a build guide on this one too if you want more depth. This one isn't outdated, thankfully. Gwissin Vest, Void with Spectral Grenades. I haven't seen that super so far this video and definitely won't again. I've gone with the aspects Stylish Executioner and Vanishing Step, Echo of Reprisal, Exchange, Starvation, Instability. Proc Devour to gain grenade energy on kills, use Ashes to assets on your helmet for super energy on grenade kills. When you get your super, you can heavy attack after getting kills to extend the super. I guess pairing this with Heart Shadow could make for an interesting time. Reiju's Harness, another Arc Staff exotic. The fact that there's 3 of them is just ridiculous. The fact I have such a good roll on mine is equally as ridiculous. Why can't I get 28 resilience on my Gerfalcons? Anyways, Arc with Flow State and Lethal Current. Hands-on mods for super energy, Spark of Brilliance, Spark of Beacons, Magnitude, and Shock for other stuff. This particular exotic allows you to deactivate your Arc Staff super early to release a blinding explosion and grant an arc damage boost that doesn't stack with surge mods. Nice. This variation of this super can be decent when used defensively, like reviving someone in a Grandmaster Nightfall, so it's not totally useless. Omnioculus, Void, Trapper's Ambush, Vanishing Step, Obscurity, Persistence, Starvation, Vigilance. Next to Gerfalcons, this is probably the best Void build in the entire game. While invisible, you gain damage resistance, you get 2 smoke bomb charges, and 50% of your energy is refunded when you make an ally invisible. This build excels in both high-end Nightfalls and solo content, so it's definitely one you want to keep an eye on. And the final chess piece, Gerfalcons itself. Void, Vanishing Step, Stylish Executioner. Vigilance, Persistence, Starvation, Undermining. Of all the builds in this video, I can confidently say that this is the best hunter build in the entire game, hands down. I've made a few tweaks since using this in Day 1 Root of Nightmares, but the general loop is still the same. Go invisible through either dodging, getting a grenade kill, or killing a weakened enemy. Emerging from invisibility gives you volatile rounds. Getting kills with these volatile rounds makes you invisible again and refreshes the timer. It's absolutely fantastic. Lucky Pants, Strand, Ensnaring Slam, Widow's Silk, Wisdom, Warding, Generation, Continuity. Switching to a fully reloaded hand cannon procs a 10-second buff that ramps up the damage of your hand cannon with each hit. This is actually really good when paired with Crimson or Malfeasance with its new catalyst. Reason we're on Strand is so that we can suspend an enemy in order to hit their crit easier. If you've watched any of my other exotic videos, you'll know I'm not the biggest fan of these legs, but I won't deny it can be incredibly effective in some situations. Orpheus Rig, Void, Stylish Executioner, Vanishing Step. Went with the grenade focused Void build here, so I'm using Echo of Undermining, Instability, Remnants, and Expulsion. Expulsion isn't essential, it's just cool to watch enemies explode when they die. Orpheus Rig will give your Mobius Quiver 1 extra shot, which can turn your super into a massive volley of burst damage. Stompies, a very different build for this one, more of a focus on utility. Strand, Widow Silk, Threaded Spectre, Warding, Transmutation, Generation, Ascent. I've maxed out my mobility and discipline to get grapple and dodge back very quickly, also using bombers and grenade kickstart. Having the mobility of Stompies combined with a grapple can get you through jumping puzzles with absolute ease. More of a build you switch to specifically for jumping puzzles though. Alternatively, if you can Shatterskate, you can run these on Stasis, a little bonus build for you. Gemini Jester, Arc, Flow State, Lethal Current, Feedback, Haste, Resistance, Magnitude. Yet another combination blow build, but this time dodging will blind enemies around you. It's a decent substitution for Assassin's Cowl or Liar's Handshake, but it's nothing noteworthy. Frosties, Stasis, Touch of Winter, Grim Harvest, Rhyme, Shards, Fissures, Durance, Chains. Sprinting gives you increased ability recharge rates, allowing you to spam Duskfields and Shurikens pretty much whenever you want. Freezing, damage resistance, overshields, increased grenade regen is one of the best Stasis hunter builds we've seen. Bombardiers, Solar, Knock 'em Down, Gunpowder Gamble, Ashes, Torches, Char, Singeing, Searing. Being on Solar allows the bomb planted by Bombardiers to scorch targets. Combining this with a melee ability like Knife Trick can proc an Ignition provided you're using Ember of Ashes, which can be quite useful for dealing with mages or unstopped champions. Alternatively, you can proc the Ignition using an exotic like Tommy's Matchbook or Skyburner's Oath. Star Eater Scales, Arc, Lethal Current, Tempest Strike, Instinct, Shock, Resistance, Magnitude. Ever wanted to do almost 1 million damage with a single super? This build is for you. Picking up 4 orbs of power after your super energy is full will increase the damage of your super by 70%. I've also noticed recently that your boots glow at full stacks, leaving me wondering how many raid teammates I've accidentally flashbanged just before a damage phase. Speedloader Slacks, Solar, Knock 'em Down on your mark. This is the closest thing you're going to get to a hunter support build, I'm afraid. You and your allies gain increased reload speed, handling, and airborne effectiveness after you dodge. Dodging again or getting a kill adds another stack. Here we combine this with Ember of Torches to make allies radiant, Mercy to give them restoration, and Tempering to give them recovery. Using Lumina will give them a 35% damage buff too. It's a super interesting build. I wish more exotics promoted unique playstyles like this. And the 40th build of the video, Radiant Dance Machines, and wow, this one's got a lot to deconstruct. Instead of Bungie's normal approach to buffing exotics by giving them like a bit of airborne effectiveness or a small damage boost to weapons, they turned this one into one of the most ridiculous exotics in the entire game. On one hand, you can combine this with Marksman's dodge to spam reload a rocket and do crazy high DPS, or spam reload a waveframe grenade launcher for equally as good ad clear. On the other hand, you can pair it with Gambler's dodge to refund your melee ability on every dodge near enemies. You know how an Arc Hunter can loop its melee and dodge abilities? You can do that with Dance Machines with any melee ability you can think of. The two I particularly liked were Strand and Stasis. With Stasis you can throw a shuriken, dodge near an enemy to recharge the shuriken, then throw another shuriken. With Strand, which was my personal favourite, you can spam Threaded Spike. Now what's particularly interesting about Strand is that you can use the Thread of Propagation aspect to gain unravelling rounds on a melee kill. The other aspects I used were Warding, Evolution and Rebirth for Woven Mail and more powerful Threadlings respectively. I did also test how the multi-dodge interacted with the Strand decoy, but unfortunately it seems to have a fairly long internal cooldown. And with that, all 40 exotics have been builded. Loadouted, used, crafted. You've got another 40 builds to try out, so go do that while I take another month to do the Warlock one.